So there should be, let me see if I can find, I know I have it. Let's see here. So I'm gonna share my screen and share this information with everyone, and then we'll get started. So yes, Randa has kindly shared the link, but you can find it from the schedule that we've all been following today, and just selecting the apply for the micro credential. And then here we have it. And sort of hidden in here is the badge application form. Now, if you want to get fancy, you can scan the QR code, or you could just click this link. And then here you'll enter in, your name, your email, and work your way through. You'll have a spot to upload or write your text in there, and then some options. These all get reviewed by us. We are only human, so it may take some time. Certainly not a month, but it'll take longer than 5 minutes. And that is the process.
You said you're only human, not superhuman?
Yes, unfortunately.
Oh, okay, because I was misled on that one.
Well, I don't want to take away from what you've heard, but I'm going to admit that I'm not
Okay,
superhuman.
I appreciate your modesty.
I try. Okay, great. So we've got some people here. It's 1:17. Let's get started. I'm going to see. Oh, we have the recording is going on. Great. So my name is Alex Venis. I work with the Teaching and Learning Center and also teach in the School of English and Liberal Studies. So now in the chat, yes, you were required to have a workshop reflection and the keynote reflection, 2 items. And with me today is my colleague, Alexander Stewart, who is from the Teaching and Learning Center, and I will let him introduce himself.
Hello. Yes. As other Alex mentioned, it's great that we both have the same name. That hasn't made things confusing at all in previous sessions today. I work with the Teaching and Learning Center, and I'll be talking about Padlet later today.
Awesome. So this workshop, we're going to do a short introduction to active learning, and I'm going to get my presentation started here. So if I can ask everyone to go to menti.com and enter in the code, we will be able to start. So I'll do a quick introduction to active learning and what it is. And then we will explore 2 particular tools that you can use in synchronous or asynchronous environments. We've got Padlet and Mentimeter. Mentimeter is what I'm using here. And Padlet is another quite powerful and flexible tool for active learning. So let's see here. No, those are just comments. So let's get started. And just to kind of suss out how we're feeling, are you familiar with the concept of active learning? So using your phone or another browser, you can enter in your answer. Absolutely. Let's see if I could just copy and paste that. Very useful. So I could just copy and paste that code. So you can go to, like I said, menti.com and enter in the code. So we've got one person who is an expert, one person wagging their finger, and the majority of us are sort of somewhere in the middle. So that's great. Let's just see how many people we have. So maybe we give it a minute or so for some of the other attendees to participate in this democratic procedure. And perfect. So we'll move on. I'm hoping the two people who I've never heard of it will walk away with at least being in the maybe column. Perhaps not the expert column, but the maybe column is a good goal. So what is active learning? Now, it's not a terribly complex sort of concept, and we've got this immediate comparison between active and passive. So some of the literature defines active learning as anything that involves students in doing things and thinking about the things they are doing. So this is often contrasted to passively listening or watching a lecture and taking notes. And so that becomes, it's very broad and general. What is active learning? Many things would be considered active learning, but there is a lot of research that says active learning is effective. And in online courses especially, sometimes it feels like you're pontificating to an empty room. So any strategies that we as instructors can do to encourage students to participate is going to make everyone more enjoyable, their experience more enjoyable. So another more modern sort of definition is anything course related that all students in a class session are called upon to do other than simply watching, listening, and taking notes. So it's just about anything that isn't passively absorbing information. So to get the ball rolling, what are some activities that you like to do in online environments that you think would constitute active learning? And this could be, we can get some ideas going here, but just some way to share what you're doing in your classes. So we've got a quiz competition, can be a really nice way to encourage students to sort of participate. And that's really nice. There's a quiz competition can be done in Mentimeter, and I'll show you how to do that. But also you've got your classics like Kahoot. So we've got polling again. So students sharing their work is really nice, and knowing that they are sharing it with other students probably changes the way that they approach it. And so we're getting students to teach one another. And I'm sure, as we all know, that we learn a lot of material really well when we have to teach it. So applying that to students is a great way to get things more active. We've got questions on Blackboard, debates, polling, breakout rooms, surveys, live presentations. Graph-based polls are great as well. Hakan adds in the chat. And Mentimeter, I've said this many times, and I will say it again, Mentimeter is my favorite tool. And so I'll be showing you how to use that. We've got someone who's already not familiar with Padlet, and that'll be great. So hopefully you'll be able to come away with some new tips and tricks. But we see there's a variety of activities, and part of our job as instructors is to little bit of guess and check, a little bit of past experience informing us, but we want to find out what works for our students and our course content. What can we do that students are going to like and participate in? And that's the trick. We've been doing online learning for a year now, give or take at least. So it's becoming very obvious to us where some of perhaps our personal weak spots are and where we might want to improve. So Hakan asks, enabling H5P content as an iframe. That is not under the purview of today's workshop. However, Hakan, you can email me and we can talk about what we can do with H5P content. So we've got lots of ideas here. This is great. Now, some of the research says that active learning can increase student engagement. It can improve student knowledge acquisition and retention. Lectures are more effective, and it can highlight student gaps in understanding. This one can be really, really important, as it is pretty disheartening to find out near the end of the semester one of the earlier things that you taught just didn't get across and you didn't know until right before the exam. And increased motivation. And when we look at humanizing learning from Michelle's keynote, the idea of motivation, addressing gaps, and making sort of personal, effective lectures is something that has a lot of positive impacts on the student environment, student experience. Not that active learning will solve every problem there ever was, but it is certainly something that we can work towards and improve as one facet of our teaching. So I have here just a sort of image. This one comes to us from the University of Michigan on organizing some active learning strategies. Now, a lot of them come here from sort of teaching in person, where a lot of these activities are very easy, much easier to facilitate in person than they are online, but they're by no means impossible. So maybe thinking about some of these sort of activities and how we can convert them into online environments. And it's been a while since we've done this, that thinking about what are some of the virtual options we have to really bring back some of the active learning that maybe was present before we went online, or present in a different way. And then finally, I really like this. This is just an image of a potential structure. And this one comes to us from Harvard University about just how we can organize a 2-hour lecture. And I know I'm guilty of it, and I can only assume some of you as well, of kind of the lecture running away from me. And what was supposed to be a 10 to 15 minute mini lesson turned out to be 40 minutes of me droning on. And it happens. So I like this sort of schedule just to remind me that really going for short little concept mini lessons, and then an activity, and then a concept mini lesson, and then an activity, is an effective sort of pacing strategy for our classes, because it's too easy for us to sort of often revert to just lecturing for the entire time, and that's not really effective. So this is sort of active learning, and this is what I have. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, other Alex, who will share with us how we can use Padlet to sort of enrich our teaching practice.
Okay. Thank you very much, other Alex, for that great introduction to online learning. As you mentioned, I'm going to be talking about Padlet for the next short while here, so let me cue that up. Okay, so we're going to be talking about kind of the characteristics of Padlet and kind of what it can be used for within that active learning framework that was just described. So the simplest way to think about Padlet is that it's a online tool that serves a lot of functions as it relates to idea organization and even to a higher degree, kind of like real-time idea communication. It's very big on this idea of collaboration. We're going to be looking at the concept of the application as a whole, the function it provides, as well as some specific uses and some demonstrations of how that works within the actual Padlet environment. I have some examples queued up here. Just to expand a bit more on myself, as other Alex mentioned, I'm a project manager and e-learning specialist at the Teaching and Learning Center here. Some of you may know me from other projects or encounters, but one of my roles, among many others, is to help faculty conceptualize and utilize tools within the remote learning framework, one of which is Padlet. So what is Padlet and kind of what's its purpose? The easiest way to conceptualize it as part of that collaboration focus that I mentioned is as an online bulletin board. And when you think about a bulletin board, there's a lot of different ways you can imagine using that, right? It can just be a place to throw up ideas. It can be a place to organize ideas spatially. It can be a place to connect ideas to pictures, words to pictures, pictures to where you hang your car keys. If you had a little push pin in there, there's a lot of different ways you can work with that, right? And the same is true of Padlet. And within that environment, boards and groups can be created, and users can post, reply, associate content, and more, emulating that bulletin board suite in the online setting. Now, before I go further, there is one thing I want to contextualize, and that is, unlike Mentimeter, which is going to be discussed later in this workshop, Seneca itself does not have a site license for Padlet. It's something that's being pursued, but as of the moment, we don't have one. And that means that were you to use this, you would be creating a free account and using it yourself. And that kind of changes some of the contextualization. What I'm going to be showing you is a lot of things that it can be used for to kind of, help get your mind going about, oh, maybe I could try this or try that. But one of the things that I'd like you to think the most about and concentrate on is specifically with the free version, we found that the most applicable way it can be used is within kind of like a corollary to some lecture you're running or something you're doing in real time as a way to get real quick reflection and feedback. I'll be showing a specific example of that, but that's kind of the way I'd like you to think about it. As kind of I go through these different ideas, think how could I apply this in more of a real-time setting to however I'm interacting with my students. So with that in mind, as mentioned, the whole point of it is to serve as that central location to fulfill that purpose of use for different types of discussions that could happen in a forum or during a lecture, portfolio construction or provision or like association materials, facilitation of groups and the like. As students can absolutely have a Padlet environment of themselves if they'd like to have it. And so, as mentioned, in all these aspects, the whole point of it is to think about it as that vehicle for collaboration. And so what functions does it have that actually, supports and facilitates everything I've been discussing about so far? Well, it has quite a lot, and they're all really focused towards this concept of simplification, flexibility, and I guess greater stimulation through just how like customizable it is visually. So it allows for a lot of formations of groups and subgroups with editorial permissions. It's fully drag and drop. It saves things very frequently. It updates almost instantly, all of which are good for those real-time usages that I mentioned, and are also good for students who are working on stuff maybe over longer periods of time if you're using it in a different manner. Unlike a lot of, unlike say Blackboard, Collaborate text chat or Teams or Zoom text chat for that matter, it can facilitate the sharing of almost any type of content. So I'm sure at some point you or a student you've had has had problems sharing a video of some type or content from some source or something, or something like that. Padlet doesn't really have a lot of those problems. It has integration with everything I've encountered, from Office documents to YouTube, Spotify and SoundCloud, Twitter, all kinds of stuff. If you want to stick them in there, it's very flexible with that. And then it does that in, as mentioned, the very attractive, spatially coherent fashion. And as I said, I'll be showing some examples of that. So with that, I've kind of been asking you to continually conceptualize how you can see your content maybe moving into this based on what I've said and what I'll be showing in a second. But what are some concrete examples? So one of them that I mentioned was portfolio assignments or collections or desired groupings of that, because that allows students to take all those different sources as mentioned, and as you might think on a bulletin board, throw it all up there, connect them all together, draw relationships, do all of that, and thereby better organize it. Which also moves into the concept of it being used for group organization, because you can very easily break down tasks. You can use it as a task board if you wanted to do that, just like you could a regular bulletin board, right, with to-do lists and columns and things like that. It has a lot of additional usage in quick discussions and feedback and question answers, because you can put a question up there, as you might imagine, putting a note up on a bulletin board, and someone can stick a note below it and reply to that, and go on, and people can reply to each other, and so on and so forth. And that leads into the significant utilization specifically for the free version, which is what we're limited to at the moment, because we don't have that site license, for usage in lecture accompaniment or synchronous accompaniment, because you can very quickly have a more flexible environment for students to answer either seated or free questions, or provide feedback or something like that, without kind of the very straight limitations of just a text chat that tends to dominate in either Blackboard Collaborate or Zoom here, or anything of the sort. So I've been talking about Padlet for quite a while now, and saying, how it can do this and how it can look like that and so on. But it's really important to actually see that. So I'm going to take a few minutes and inspect the environment, kind of go through a few of the things I've been talking about, so you can see kind of what it looks like, because form follows function, right? One thing I would draw before I jump into this, though, is I'm going to be showing you, kind of some ideas of what it can look like in different formations, and what kind of different organizations exist and things like that. But nothing I show is going to be anywhere near as communicative or valuable or insightful, or stimulate as much personal reflection as to how content can be translated, as it would be if you created a free account, which is very quick to do, and just played around with it yourself. So I would highly encourage that, following either this workshop or later on, or if you have any interest in continuing on with the tool at all, go and create that account and play around with it. You'll learn a lot more that way than what I'll be able to show you. So let me just jump over there now for a second. Gotta just switch the share. Okay, so this is what the Padlet dashboard looks like once you create your account. You have a very simple interface here, where you have your created Padlets in the middle. You have options at the upper left, and you have some different organization things along the right here, where you can you can see the ones you made recently, ones that you've shared, archived ones, because the free version has a limit of 4 active Padlets at a time. You can put older ones in the archive just to kind of throw them back in there in case you want to pull them out again. And so you can see it's a very simple interface at this point. So let's take a look at some specific examples. One of the things I mentioned was that it can change out a lot of, say, classroom introductions or discussion forum activities. So, I'm sure in a lot of courses you've seen the introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, right? It tends to just be a discussion post or anything like that. And those tend to be a little dry sometimes. So one thing Padlet can do is replicate that, but it can do it with a map background. And so one of the Padlets, you can start with a map, and students could go to this, say, and they can try to do a new thing. It's like, okay, so where are they from? They're from, let's say, Quebec City, right? There you go. They can put a little bit of information about themselves. They could, if they wanted, to upload a file or a picture or something like that. So, oh, they want to put a picture of Quebec City. There you go. And it's going to upload, and there you go. Oh, and I misspelled from. I'm going to leave that, because that's a kind of because that would happen sometimes. So you can see that this is a very simple example, but it's something where people can perhaps translate that kind of dry intro activity that tends to occur a lot into something that's maybe a bit more interesting to look at. You can see the spatial distribution of people rather than just reading it, etc. Right? It's just one of those little translations. I mentioned that another use was with this kind of portfolio aggregation connectivity idea of like putting stuff up on a bulletin board and drawing the connections and lines between them, which is often the case in a lot of group work or investigations that students might do. So we're going to take a look at a second here, which is imagine an assignment where the goal is to create a portfolio of flowers, right? So you can see that we can very easily have notes. We can drag them around. It's drag and drop. And you can very easily put new stuff on it. So say a new student comes in here, it's like, oh, I need to put my flower in. Well, let's create something new here. and then let's upload a picture. Now, of course, they could do it from, say, their phone, or a link or something, or they could do, or hell, they could take a snap where it just activates the camera on their phone. Do that. They could talk about their flower. They could capture film from their camera from it. They could actually draw one on a little on-screen whiteboard. So there's a lot of ways they can put content into this that you can't just get in a normal forum post, or if you were using this in, say, a lecture where it was like, can you spend 5 minutes and associate 2 or 3 bits of content together, right? That's something that students could do in here, and associate all of it in kind of like that free form fashion, right? So we're just going to upload a quick picture here, put another flower in there. Come on. Oh, it's a little bit slow right now. Just going to arrange. There we go. We're just going to move some stuff around so we get the lines a bit better. And then it's like, all right, well, we want to connect the two. It's as easy as every post. You can customize in a lot of different ways with the options. So you could change the color. Why not? We'll make this one red. Sure. We can very easily connect it to something to give some information. So we can do connect. We'd like to connect to this one. Do we want to put a label on the arrow? Why not? And there we go. Now we have a connection between them. So this is a very simple description, but you can see that it allows a lot more communication of information, both in terms of spatial position and directionality. And I invite you to think about, what kind of stuff you're doing that might enhance for students to be able to see in such a fashion. And then finally, kind of the last 2 things I think are perhaps more applicable for the direct use of these in, say, synchronous sessions, are the ideas of kind of the shelf organization and kind of the question organization. The idea is, say you're doing a lecture and you're thinking, hey, I have these 4 questions that I'd like students to take a couple minutes and answer, but also I'd like to see that they can see what other people are answering, that I can go over them and see how they're separated by category and grouping and things like that. Well, Padlet allows for this. And as a side note, you can see that there's a lot of customizability of colors and backgrounds and things like that to really show the variability of design and make it a little more visually stimulating, right? So you can see here that in shelf style, it literally does that. It creates a series of shelves or columns that you can populate however you want. So you see I have a few pre-seeded questions here with responses from fake students. And you could do this in many different ways. You could set up questions before a lecture and share this to the students that, maybe while you're taking a 5-minute break, they put up a bunch of answers here and you have something to come back to. You can have them put up reflections as they move around, right? As you go through content based on pre-seeded sections, if you wanted to, why not? And then you can very easily, or students, when they got the student version of this, could very easily, add something else in here. And there's a new post in there, and this will update almost instantly for everybody who's viewing it if they just, refresh it. So you and they can get that quick feedback. You could add another question here because maybe you're taking one back and you like to get a second one in here. And that's easy enough to do that as well. And so this not only allows you to have those questions and create new ones very quickly and see the answers as they're coming in, but also organize them nice and spatially as well. And then the last thing I want to show, because I see there's a number of questions and I'd like to answer, I'd like to go through a bunch of those before I jump back to the last little bit of the presentation. The last thing I'd like to go into is the other idea of how this might be able to be useful in a lecture, specifically in terms of, say you just want quick feedback about, you're going through something. What are students thinking? What if do they have a specific particular question, and also be able and organized in a way where you're not scrolling up through a chat log and where a lot of stuff can get missed, right? I know I've missed things in chat logs. I'm sure everyone has at some point. Right? And it's also a bit dry to go through. So say you were doing a lecture talking about fish. I don't know, that might be a course. Okay. And then, you could, students could have access to this, and I'll show you how to do that in 1 second. And say, you're going through it and you just want to, at the break, you'll answer the questions or concerns that they might have, right? Well, as you're going through it, they could be on here and they can go, okay, I just heard that. Let's ask a question. So I say go and add a post, and I'll just drop a new one up there. And they can just and they can drop a question there, and this will just populate it just as it goes along, piece by piece. And so on. And you can see that very easily. Not only would you be able to do something like see a whole bunch of the questions here, right? But as you're answering them, you could even, color them. I answered that one. I answered that one. I answered that one. So that can also give you and the students visual feedback as well, that things have been answered or looked at. Or, you could do that and also, add your own comment upon it, right? Or something like that, right? So there's a lot of flexibility here. And as I said, I encourage you to maybe go in and try to play around with it later on. But really, as mentioned, the real thing to harp on is the flexibility. In terms of how you would actually make this available to students, Padlet makes that very simple. In every Padlet screen like this, up in the upper right corner, you can see the share button. If you click on that, you get a whole bunch of options to share it. You could add members if this is a private Padlet for people who do have accounts. You can copy a direct link for students to get into it. You could get a QR code if you wanted. I've never used it, but a lot of students access these things through mobile devices or are using mobile devices for their remote learning. And so QR codes can be very useful there. You can get embed codes for blogs or websites if you're wanting to use it in some other fashion. You can email it out and you can share it in different formats. There's a lot of very easy ways to share the content. Just gonna take a quick look at the chat here. Oh, thank you. Other Alex is responding as I go along. That's great. Thank you very much, other Alex. See, because I'm scrolling up here trying to look at the questions, and I can see that it'd be very easy to overlook something or jump over it. Whereas if, say, a Padlet had been used, you can imagine that it could be a lot easier to access, because all the stuff would be dumped in here, and I'd be able to see them all in a very nice grid fashion that I could very easily categorize as answered, or maybe green means I'll send them an email afterwards, and blue means someone else answered it, right? Why not? Lots of different options, and again, that's really what I'm trying to harp on, that flexibility and lots of additional options to the base environment that most people tend to be using. Let me just jump back to the presentation real quick here so I can finish it off. So just some more quick examples based on what I'd shown previously to see kind of some more context. So, I was talking about using the Padlet for questions. On the left here, we can see another one of those shelf column styles where this is being used for general assignment questions, right? It was easy enough to put not only the question there, but also the instructions for it in one of the columns. So it doesn't have to be one type of associated information. You can have lots of different information associated in different columns, and you can restrict, depending on the options you choose as you go through it, who can post where and so on, to keep control of things. And so you can display a lot of that information in a much more spatially cohesive fashion than maybe otherwise. On the right, you can see another example of that map thing where someone did what I was doing with the Quebec City thing, where instead of just, typing that they were from Dallas in a discussion post or a chat box somewhere, right? I mean, because you could imagine a 10-minute time in say the first lesson for a class while you're talking about other stuff. You ask people to give themselves a quick introduction on this Padlet, right? Then the students can go and see where everyone is spatially and see those pins. So that's another use of it to kind of increase the student engagement interactivity level, right? Another example of that column format doesn't even have to be an assignment. You could use it to do any kind of information. So for example, here, someone used it for a study guide for history course, which not only can include, the information about the different things to study and resources to study, but it could also communicate the ordinal order in which to do so. So maybe in this course, the order of this reading is left to right, right? So, and then of course, as students finished it, or as you were done with that option, you could change the color to be like, I've done this, I haven't done this, and so on, right? So there's a number of additional resources here, which I use to make this, which I'll copy into the chat log here for people who would like them. In case you want to look a bit further, there's a lot of additional examples of types of Padlets, uses of it in specific times of specific types of assignments and synchronous sessions and things of the like, if you're interested in seeing more of that. And so overall, thank you very much for listening. And if you have additional questions that won't be answered here or can't be answered here or otherwhere, and you'd like to engage more on Padlet and you have specific questions about that, please feel free to email teaching at Seneca College for our Seneca associates here to work with. So thank you very much for listening to me and taking the time out to either learn a little bit more about or maybe conceptualize a little more about a potential approach towards Padlet. And I will hand it back to other Alex for MC duties.
All right. Thank you, Alex. Great. So that was Padlet. Does anyone have any questions about Padlet that maybe we can address now?
The sound of silence.
I just have a quick one. A lot of the kids a lot of the students, use their cell phones for classrooms.
Yes.
Is it difficult to navigate between the Blackboard and the Padlet?
So Blackboard is pretty bad on mobile.
Yeah.
Whereas, and this is one of the big bonuses of going outside of Blackboard, is that Padlet is accessible via mobile and allows for a lot more content to be added, which is pretty helpful. So there would have to be a way, perhaps via email or a liquid syllabus or something else, that would give students a sort of set of links that they could access from their phone, so that they would be able to use their mobile to interact with a lot of this content. But
I find that difficult to sort of mix with, I've done polls in all my classes, and out of 4 of them, there were 2 students, and the combined, I think, is like 130 students that didn't want to use the Blackboard exclusively. So their preference is actually to have a singular platform, not to have to navigate back and forth. I didn't get too in depth into why that's the case. I don't know if it's because of where they live or their, just lifestyles. Maybe they just want to log on, record it, and then not actually pay attention. I'm not sure, but it was overwhelmingly that they all wanted it to stay in Blackboard. So we don't do anything outside of Blackboard, but I do like the Padlet. I'm just worried that if maybe they're using the phones, they won't be able to go back and forth, but it could very well be, I don't know what it is.
yeah, so
Wondering how the Padlet works with a phone, if it's okay.
So we do know that Padlet is accessible on phone devices. It's interesting that your experience was that students didn't like leaving the Blackboard platform, because I've found that in my experience, students find Blackboard's products to be a little clunky and awkward. Like the discussion board looks like it's straight from the 90s. And a lot of these other tools are more streamlined and sort of aesthetically pleasing. So, my first wonder is whether it was perhaps a quirk of this particular class, but also there's a lot of management about whether it's asynchronous and it's sort of embedded content, whether it's kind of live. So I think there's definitely an element with all these tools of finding what works for you and your students and your content that you're teaching. So there's really no one size fits all, although I'm a little bit surprised of your sort of findings that students like to stay in Blackboard. I've found the
Likewise,
opposite.
I mean, Zoom is better and all these other, that's why I did a poll, and I did the poll in Blackboard, but I was also surprised. I don't know why, but I guess the point of my question was, is Padlet good for phone users, people who stream a class, and then can they pop into another window as easily on a mobile?
So Matt, like I can flip through my tabs on my phone very easily. And so I'm not too
Assuming, sorry,
yeah,
I just
go
want to
ahead,
say,
Alex.
assuming they can jump between tabs and stuff, Padlet has works very well on a phone in terms of like its interface or its like mobile programming adaptation for when someone accesses it on a mobile device. It is like, you know, like it does have a specific optimization for that. So as long as they can jump between tabs on their phone and manage that, which isn't something that, you know, Padlet has any control over, right? Then its interface on a phone is pretty slick, I've found from
Sounds
my
good.
personal use.
Yeah, thanks.
So Maya asks about the limit of presentations. So the free Padlet does have a limited number of presentations that can be active at a given time, but it will allow you to archive old ones. So it's a little bit of a sort of a whack-a-mole process, unfortunately, where you can have a limited number that are active, but all the creative work that went into building them, they can be easily made inactive and then active again. So for example, let's say I teach an asynchronous class. So I have a Padlet for discussion for every week's lecture. So at any given time, students have access to the current Padlet and then the 2 weeks prior. And I sort of keep recycling them in that fashion. And it's not ideal because it would be nice for them to be able to refer to some of the older ones, but that's it's sort of working with this limitation that we're sort of forced to with the free account. Hussam also says, and this is a really good point about not all international students have access to good internet connections. Oh, Maya, no, you can just archive them. And if you Google Padlet archive and look for information about that, you'll find it. It will severely improve your process if you've been deleting and recreating your old ones. Okay, I'm glad to hear that. But this question of internet does really come up a lot in our teaching, and finding a balance between not too many tools that are too bandwidth intensive, but also trying to somehow encourage participation that isn't going to be just students sort of signing into the lecture and not doing anything therein. That balance is going to be at play. And there's really, like I say, there's no one size fits all. What might work for me might not work for you. What works for perhaps my content, my students, one semester might not even work the next semester. And so it's part of the process is trying to find things that will work and are going to be well received by as many students as possible. And that's always the struggle. And I think it's something that all instructors around the world are trying to navigate right now. So we're definitely not alone in that. But thank you for that. Those are some really good sort of things to consider, especially when there's so many tools out there. And sometimes we get overwhelmed with just the number of various tools, and Padlet and Mentimeter are just two. I'm sure you've run into so many others throughout, your teaching. Now, a student, if they have 5 courses and each instructor uses 3 different tools, now that means like a student has 15 tools to navigate, and that can be really overwhelming. So there's this interplay about trying to find a nice number of tools that you get a good bang for your buck with, but without overwhelming the student, bearing in mind that, you know, they use, one class uses Zoom, one class uses Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, one uses WebEx, and they've got 3 platforms. Like it can be a headache. So this is something that I think everyone is still trying to figure out how to apply levels of consistency and be sort of aware of all levels of internet technological access and things like that. So these are definitely live questions, and I don't have any easy answers. I would be very surprised if anybody had easy answers to these questions. But these are great things to, you know, think about, reflect on, and see how you can navigate them in your own teaching. I think absolutely. Are there any other questions that we can maybe address about Padlet now? So one thing that, yep, go ahead.
I might have one question. So in Padlet, then if you've got, you'd probably still need then a video feed like what you're doing here where you can demonstrate that Padlet, or is there the ability to link in a video feed separately? Because you might actually need both, right? The Blackboard and the Padlet.
Not live.
Yeah.
So it would have to be a separate activity. So, you know, we're live in this session, and I would say, you know, everyone on another tab in their browser, here is Padlet link that I share in the chat. Everyone on another browser, another tab, follow that link and comment. Then I can screen share that Padlet that everyone is working on and sort of solicit live information. But certainly it would have to require 2 different tools.
I see that being super exciting for students when you go into breakout rooms.
Yes. So I was gonna mention breakout rooms as being a great way to use Padlet, because you can use so Alex showed us the shelf style with different columns, and you could have a column for group 1, 2, 3, 4, et cetera, and you could have them contribute what they're talking about, or a summary, or you know, maybe the breakout room is to find a news article about this topic, and they can share it. So it can kind of make things more collaborative, because every breakout group can see what the other ones are doing.
Yeah.
And also allows you to kind of watch the process without entering the breakout room, because that just makes everyone go silent, and you're like,
a new twist on brainstorming sessions too, right?
Yeah. So there are certainly particular places that I think it can be really powerful. But again, comments that came earlier in the chat from such as Hussam, or I believe it was Randa's experience, just about, it's not going to be the panacea, the catch-all answer to every problem, but there may be a very good opportunity to use it. One thing that I heard that I really liked was, so Padlet allows for voice memos, very short voice memos, and kind of in the vein of humanizing learning, is you can ask students to introduce themselves verbally, and this not only makes things a little bit more personable, but it gives you a recording of them pronouncing their name, which can really help with learning who your students are, learning the correct pronunciation, and learning a little bit about them. That the voice memo is well integrated in Padlet, and that's something that I think doesn't get enough love. We're always so used to text-based things, and you know, Mentimeter, the whole thing will be text-based. So little opportunities to move away from pure text-based interactions can be really nice sometimes. So Amina asks in the chat whether you could, she was under the impression you could not use Padlet in breakout rooms. And so you could have a Padlet, like if I were to share a Padlet link with everyone, and then split you all into breakout groups, you could each within your groups be updating the Padlet. And then when we all return, I can share the results of the collaboration with everyone. And so that's one method.
So when the different groups are using the Padlet, or they can't see each other, or could I see everybody posting stuff, or we would have?
So if you use the shelf method, I think this is an interesting thing. So let me just share my screen here really quickly. So I've just made a Padlet. They've called it my sumptuous Padlet. So what if this was group 1 and this was group 2, and then maybe we realized we need instructions, and then group 3. We're gonna organize that a little bit. So in this process now, each group has a way to post, and you could share this one link. So if we were doing this as a sort of a rough prototype, I would share this link. I would tell everyone, as long as they know what group they're in, I would tell them, okay, here's the question, here's the instruction, here's what we're doing. Fill out some ideas and thoughts that you have in your group's column. And at the end of it, you who have access to this, you can share this. And so we've moved away from Padlet, and now we're back in the main Zoom room, the main Blackboard room, and we have access to everything here. So that's one method, certainly.
I really like that.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it can be a really nice way to sort of make breakout rooms a little more structured. So I've noticed that as soon as I put my students into breakout rooms, my presentation with the instructions has disappeared.
Yeah.
So this can be great. And then I can easily pop into every group and just share the link with them in case they've lost it. But if they open it up, then they have the instructions, whatever we want to do there. Now I want to add in sort of a voice memo. I want to do all sorts of things. And it's the richness of this column of options. I upload files. I could sort of link. I could search Google for things, take a picture, voice memo. So all these things really make it much more versatile of a tool than Blackboard's discussion group, for example, which is a really tried and true, possibly tiresome, depending on who you ask, method in the classroom.
And then the student, when you share that link, does the student need a pass key, or are they just that link and you've dictated who's allowed to have the link and it's good?
So in this way, this hello person, it's anonymous. They don't have a Padlet account as far as I know. So they've just added it anonymously. If you want to start marking this, then you would ask them to sign their name or register, but you don't need to. And absolutely, you can delete postings. So that person, gone. There's a little delete button. Now, I will caution, with anything anonymous, there is an element of trolling and inappropriate online behavior. So definitely keeping tabs on the Padlet just to make sure. I always like to tell my students, without hesitation, I will just remove this if we're not able to use it respectfully. And I'm very upfront about, that's what I ask of you. And in return, we'll keep this up. And I haven't had too many negative experiences, but I definitely have to go in and kind of delete a couple things that didn't really fit.
And then are you ever concerned about copyright stuff that gets populated from different pictures or websites, or are you not really worried about that?
So for my own stuff, I'm usually using Creative Commons image sources, so Unsplash and Pixabay. When it comes to what my students write, I think that's a bit of a gray area. where I like personally, I don't really know the answer. If someone else knows, like, what do we do in a collaborative sort of product where someone has gone afoul of copyright rules? Where does that leave the project? So that I actually don't know. I cover my own bases,
Yeah.
but I don't have any control over the students. And, you know, usually after the class is done, like a day or two later, I just sort of take down the Padlet. So I can't imagine that it's too much of an issue.
And
But
then
that's,
do you ever screenshot it and then display it just as a pic in your lecture content?
yeah, I've done that if I wanted to sort of keep it up. Hakan, probably sort of fair use for educational things. We're not profiting off of it, but I know that copyright is especially in the online space, it's becoming something that we all have to be very aware of, and it's very legally and stuff. So there are some things that, you know, I'm not 100% sure on. Padma, definitely padlet.com and just register for a free account. There's no Seneca license, so we're kind of constrained that way. But there's a lot of sort of stuff that you can do there. Is there anything else about Padlet that we could cover? I'm going to stop sharing this. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to take a quick break and then return for the final part of this workshop where I'm going to go over Mentimeter and how to import a PowerPoint presentation and embed questions into it and how to navigate the Mentimeter space. So let's take an 8-minute break and be back at 2:20. And yes, so break time. I will be back in 8 minutes. All right, everyone. It is 2:20, so we will enter the home stretch of the Teaching and Learning Conference. I hope that everyone has enjoyed their day so far and is ready to sort of wrap it up with this Mentimeter demonstration. So the first thing is for Seneca faculty, we do have a license for Mentimeter, a pro license for Mentimeter, and I am just posting some instructions on where you can find to activate your Mentimeter account or transfer over if you had already created a free account and would like to take advantage of the pro sort of features. So that's first things first. But so today I'm going to show everyone how to create a Mentimeter presentation from the ground up. And I find that students really like this. I really like it. It's my favorite tool right now. So hopefully I can sort of convince some of you that this is a great tool to use. So we're just in the Mentimeter.com sort of homepage. When I open it from my Seneca browser, where I'm already signed into Seneca, it automatically picks up who I am. And I'll just navigate to my presentations. So as you can see, I have quite a few presentations, but today we're going to pop into new presentation. As an aside, so you are able to organize this, creating folders and sort of moving sessions, moving presentations around and renaming them and duplicating them. So there are many organizational features that you can take advantage of. But we're going to start in new presentation. And this presentation will be all about salmon, the fish. A truly mighty and majestic creature. So you can create content with Mentimeter. And on the right side here, they have these content slides, which allow you to create content. However, I don't like it. I find it quite limiting, not very adaptable, and generally I prefer to create my presentation in PowerPoint and then import it, which I'll show you. But just to sort of demonstrate that, if I go to the bullets section, so here's how I change it. And it's quite awkward with each of these individual sort of text entries, but I also don't really have much choice on inserting a picture. Though I can add an image, I'm not really going to be able to move it all too well. And changing the text size will change all the text together. So generally, if you're already comfortable creating presentations on another sort of platform, I would definitely suggest just importing it in. But you do have the option to sort of build some content. The video section might be worth doing because you can just insert a URL and that'll be playable. But for most of the other types, it's going to be probably easier for everyone to stick with what you know. So we're going to import. So we go into the top left and click import. There we can just drag and drop a PowerPoint file, a PDF, or a .keynote. So Mac users are not left behind here. And I've just got on my desktop a PowerPoint that I'm just going to drag and drop in here. So it does convert your PowerPoint into an image, which makes it not editable, and it doesn't make it text-based. So a screen reader wouldn't be able to read it. So bear that in mind. You can get around that by, triple checking your original PowerPoint to make sure there are no typos and disseminating a copy of the presentation before your lecture. So those who use screen readers are able to sort of use the PowerPoint or the PDF version that you've provided. So this is the main Mentimeter screen, and we have the slides on the left that you can rearrange if you want, just by dragging and dropping. And you also have an option to duplicate and copy them to another presentation. I don't think so, Hakan. I will admit it has been ages since I've built anything on Mentimeter, but let's test it out. We're going to throw in that's a great question. So we're just going to throw it in here. We're just going to throw in a slide that just asks, is this text an image? And when we present it, we'll see if it is sort of highlightable text that a screen reader can use, or if it's an image. I have a feeling based on just this that it's going to be an image. So not really the best. But of course, if you've been building in PowerPoint, simply sharing a copy of the presentation prior to the lecture is a great way to just eliminate that issue right off the bat. And that can be really helpful. But we'll leave that in there just for testing. So we want to add in a question slide. One thing that I will draw attention to, sometimes it happens that this middle sort of slide view is blank, even though you've imported it. And to avoid that, you just go in and select that this is a document. And that will tell Mentimeter what to expect with this presentation. Most of the time it does it properly. Sometimes it kind of messes that up and you just have to go and select document. But we're going to add a slide. We're going to add in one of these question types, and we're going to cover these first 3 question types that are probably the most popular that you will use. So we'll click add a slide, then we'll choose. So we're going to do a word cloud, and our question will be, what word comes to mind when you think of salmon? So I usually leave this entries per participant unchanged. I don't usually mess with it. But what I do is I always check in this extra when available, let participants submit multiple times. If I don't check this, as soon as a student submits, whether they submit 3 entries or 1, it will disallow them for participating anymore. So I like to allow students as many opportunities as they want to participate. And this way, if a student writes something, gets an idea, they can continue to add content. So I like to do that, and I encourage everyone else to as well. You can also add in an image, and we'll do that here so I can show you. We go to this image. Now you can upload an image, but you also have access to a searchable image library from Unsplash. So these are all Creative Commons licenses, free to use, and definitely takes a lot of the guesswork of soliciting images out of it. So we're going to go to salmon. I'm going to go to my favorite picture here, the only one in the top 2 rows where it's not food. And we're going to insert that. So you do have the ability to crop a little bit, but it's fairly limited, the editing capabilities. And that is it. So under customize though, sorry, there's a little bit more. You have some options about sort of layout, how you want to present the slide. I'm just going to leave it as is, but you can play around with it. And I would definitely suggest if you do use Mentimeter and are experimenting with different layouts and stuff, you can test your presentation by presenting it and then logging in with your phone. If I go to edit, yes. So Hakan, good catch on that. There is an alt text that you can use for images. So here we have man holding salmon. So definitely, if you're going to use images, using the alt text is a great thing to do. So you do have ways to customize the content. And certainly if you're unsure of how something would look or how something would interact with on the student's end, presenting and then signing in on your phone as a student is a great way just to see what it looks like on both sides. And we'll get to see this because after I finish building this presentation, I will present it back to everyone. So you'll see how the decisions we made here influence the student experience. So we have this test. It's kind of, actually this should go before the salmon. So let's just drag it up here. And this one, so we don't interrupt the flow of the presentation, we'll bring it down to the bottom. So we have the intro slide. Now I have a question about, I have a slide on the species of salmon. And I'm going to add in a slide, and we want to do a multiple choice question. So our question will be, how many species of salmon are there in total? And we'll give options for 7, 8, and 9. So you just add the options here.
Hello, this is Amina. Can you do this whole thing and then save it? And then when you have class at that time presented, would that link always work?
Yes.
In case you're teaching 2 cohorts of the same course?
Yes.
So
that's a very good question. I will probably through the course of this answer it, but if not, at the end, I'll revisit that by showing you the presentations I've already made and how they can be reused sort of even a month after you've created them.
Okay, so my only thing that the one cohort can't go and make changes or know it beforehand if it's supposed to be kind of a surprise quiz, correct?
So there's definitely, like, I mean, if you have a class on Monday and a class on Friday and you have the same presentation, then there is certainly a chance that the Monday class will talk to the Friday class. There's no real way around that.
Okay.
You can use the same one, the same presentation. You can change it up a little bit if that's a fear.
No, my question was the link itself. Does it always generate the same link for that presentation, or is it time? Is it coordinated with the day or the time? So
the link will always be the same, but what you could do is, so if you go back to home, we see this, we're in the process of making the mighty salmon. We can duplicate it, and that'll create 2 presentations with 2 different links.
Okay, perfect.
And then you can share one with one class, one with the other.
Okay. Thank you.
Not a problem. So we'll go back in, and we're asking how many species of salmon are there in total? So in Mentimeter, every time you see this image icon, you can add in an image or a GIF. So here we're going to add in a GIF of 9. There we go. That is gross. We're going to do this. So like I said, you can't crop a GIF, can't make it bigger, but we can definitely make it a little smaller if we wanted, but we're going to leave it unchanged. And we'll just wait patiently. So I use this to add the GIFs in the multiple choice question I asked in the beginning of how familiar are you with active learning? So it's just a sort of an aesthetic thing that you can pop in to make your lectures, your questions a little bit more visually appealing and exciting. I'm not going to do it for all of them because there's the same process. So you do also have the option to add in an image. However, here I'm not going to, just so I can show you the difference between a slide with an image and a slide without an image, so you can see how it works. When we come down to the bottom, we have options to display the information as a donut, a pie, or dots, just different ways to represent the data. Bars is the only one that allows you to insert an image or a GIF with that choice. The other ones do not, and you'll see the image icon has disappeared. So up to you, really. Here we have, so letting the participants choose multiple options. This is obviously going to depend on the question, but this particular question has a right or a wrong answer. So we're going to hit show correct answers. And this creates a text box on the side that means you need to select what the correct answer is. And this is a great way to do quizzes that would not be timed, and do various formative assessments for students to see, are they understanding the material in a way that is low stakes. Mentimeter is not easily gradable. It is, you can grade it, but it is not, you have to do more to set that up. So this is just a good way to see, were students paying attention? Do they know how many species of salmon are there in total? So that is the multiple choice question. And again, in the customization tab, we have different options. I generally don't play with any of these, but you are more than welcome to experiment. And then we have a slide on the salmon run. So we're going to add in another question slide here, or we'll do it at the end. Another question slide, and this is open-ended. This is the same as the question I asked to solicit activity ideas. And we'll say, what comes to mind? No, we say, what do you think about salmon as devoted parents? Now we have to change that to Pacific salmon, because Atlantic salmon don't die after they've spawned, but Pacific salmon do. So again, we have different options to present the content. I like speech bubbles, so I don't usually touch this, but you are welcome to use a different format. And then I always check the let participants submit multiple times. So maybe we're going to move this here. So lots of variability and customization in the left side of slide organizing. So there are other questions that you can do. You can use scales, which will allow you to create a series of comments, sort of statements, and students will rank them. They'll use a sliding scale. And you can also customize what is on the right and left side. So here it's high and low, but you could change it to agree, disagree, good, bad, whatever you wanted. They also have an option for ranking, where students will be able to rank from first to worst various items, various things. And a Q&A question, a Q&A slide, which can be a good way to solicit questions throughout the presentation. Now, there is an option later, which I'll show you, about whether you want a Q&A button to be present throughout the whole presentation, or you would just like to solicit them at certain parts. And that will really depend on your own teaching style, whether you are fairly adamant in sort of saying, hold your questions to the end, or whether you're a little bit more sort of open to being interrupted in tangents with questions throughout. Totally up to you. There is a quiz competition as well, which is very similar to Kahoot, that you can use. It is the only difference between multiple choice with the answer selected and the quiz competition is that the quiz competition has a leaderboard and is timed. So it can be a fun way to sort of get things a little bit more exciting, but it is also not the most accessible activity. Students who need to reread a question multiple times or look up words or are just not as quick with their recall are going to be disadvantaged. So it is something that you can use, but we would suggest not overusing it, as it can alienate some students. But once in a while, it's certainly a little bit more exciting than the classic multiple choice. And you also have an option for students to type a piece of text as their answer. I will say, though, that this is case sensitive and doesn't have any leeway for typos. So you either, you want to have simple questions that have answers that are one word or one number if you wanted to, and certainly don't put a lot of emphasis on this if you're not going to go through and correct typos manually. So that's certainly something to be aware of. But these can be added in, and there are instructions on how to do that, and that can sort of create something a little bit more exciting than normal. You can also add music like Kahoot, but that drives me crazy. But you can, if you'd like to, you can. Kahoot makes me feel like I'm in a carnival. And then when we go down to advanced questions, there are some other ones, sort of pinning on an image, a sort of who will win, and these other types of questions that you can experiment with. Honestly, 95% of my questions are these three. I like Kahoot too, but all the colors and the music, it really makes me feel like I'm in a carnival. But that's just me. Maybe I've had bad carnival experiences and I don't want to be reminded of that. But they're both, as long as the students are learning. So I didn't know that about Kahoot, but nonetheless, in Mentimeter, you have that similar function, and you can sort of turn off or on the music. So maybe it is just Kahoot pretty much in there. So yes, I can see we're already quite divided on music and Kahoot in the chat, and Mentimeter has similar functionality. So do whatever you think is best. There's really no right or wrong answer. Okay, so students don't hear the Kahoot sounds. It really depends if you're sharing sounds as well. I know Blackboard Collaborate does allow you to share sounds if you use Google Chrome. Zoom does. So there's a lot of intricacies to do the students hear the music or not. Personally, I don't like it, but that's just me. Oh yeah, if you use Blackboard Collaborate Ultra and you use Chrome, you will find an option when you share your screen that allows you to share the sound too. So it only works in Firefox. And you can also share individual Chrome tabs, which is cool. But so moving on. So we've basically built our presentation. And so I'm going to go over some of the other things that we can do here. So in themes, we can sort of change the theme from this plain white theme into maybe a dark theme or some of these more exciting themes. These themes have not been necessarily vetted for accessibility. So something like gradient is probably not, probably doesn't have enough color contrast and shouldn't be used. But something like terminal or explore, waves, those are all good options. Color Joy, probably not. But you're free to experiment and sort of spice it up if you'd like. And under settings is where we'll have some more general features that we should be aware of. So the first one is whether you want this to be synchronous or asynchronous. So if it's presenter paced, this would be started live by you, and the slides would move forward. That you control that. So if a student shows up late, 10 minutes late, and you're on slide 3, when they sign in, they will start at slide 3. The students cannot move further or back. You control the pace. For audience paced, it is really great for asynchronous. So you could create a survey. So I use it for course feedback surveys, but you can use it for formative assessments after a lecture. You can use it for, icebreakers, whatever you want. And audience paced allows the student to log in whenever they want, to sort of follow the link, work through the presentation, and then finish it on their own time. So they'll go at their own pace. So you have a few options here as well. You can hide the results in all slides. This can be helpful if you're doing a quiz and you don't want students to sort of see what the other people are answering, to keep it a little bit more anonymous. So everyone answers and then I show the results. This one I don't usually bother with changing. Here you can change whether you want to create a little, a little option for students to ask questions in a Q&A throughout the entire presentation, or just at designated Q&A slides. Up to you about pacing. And you can see if you would like them to see each other's questions or not. If you feel like you want to vet their questions first, you'll probably want to uncheck that. Moderation sounds great, but it requires a person to do the moderating. And between you presenting, keeping eye on the chat, facilitating any discussions, also moderating posts is going to be a lot of work and probably impossible with only one device. So we usually turn this off. If you're lucky enough that you have a teaching assistant, I don't think that's a real thing for us, but if by chance you do, then you could get them to do it. And you can allow comments from the audience. So we're going to check that just so I can show you guys what it looks like, and you can decide for yourselves whether you would like comments or not. And finally, they have a profanity filter. I always like to just check all, cover all my boxes. Not that I think I could recognize Icelandic swear words, but it always helps to know that students can't swear in any of these 19 languages. It's not exhaustive. And I honestly don't even know how well it catches all of the swear words. This just makes me feel better. So I usually do it. And that is what we have for settings. So I'm going to flip this back to presenter. And then I'm going to show you the sharing menu, which is a little bit more complicated than one would think. So there are two tabs for sharing, and this one, present participation, is all about how students vote. So they can either they can either have it open or closed, up to you. They can either use a voting link, which is usually what we do for presenter pace, and it displays the link at the top of the screen. And you can change it to be valid for 2, 7, or 14 days. You probably, if you're doing it live, only need it for 2 days. Mentimeter doesn't really like when you set it at 7 or 14 because it means they have to reserve that number for a longer time. So we usually do 2 days. And you can, so it's up to you. I usually do 2 because if they're live, then I'm only using them for the presentation for voting. And if it's asynchronous, I'll share the link and the link never expires. So I usually use the link if they're going to refer to it over the course of a couple weeks or over the course of a semester. But I'll use the 2 days if it is just for a live class. But of course, depending on what you want from it, you can do what works for you. I mean, we paid for the license, so if you want to open them all like 14 and you find use in that, do it. I find that I don't need it to be open for more than 2 days, but everyone's experience will differ. So this link you can use, and this is how students will vote. They can use a QR code, the voting link, or the code. All three will take them to the same space. Correct. The link is always available. The code is not. So that's why if they're going to, if I send them, let's say a course feedback, for example, and I know that you might take a week to finish it, I'm not going to give them the voting code. I'm just going to send them the link and have them work off the link. And that never disappears. It's the voting code that does, because they get recycled over presentations. So under presentation sharing, this is where people can see the results. So they can either get a link to the results or they can embed the results. You can also export or download your presentation to get the results as well. So these are two options. What they don't allow you to easily do is embed voting into Blackboard. They don't do that for some reason. So I'm going to share with everyone. This is an HTML code that you can use. If you replace URL with keeping the quotations with this voting link, you will be able to embed a Mentimeter into your Blackboard so they can vote right in there. I forget who it was now, but someone mentioned that their students like to stay within Blackboard. Embedded content is a great way to keep them on Blackboard, but using other tools. So I embed lots of content into Blackboard so that the experience is all in there, but I have access to a lot of different tools. So I'll put in Mentimeter, I'll put in Microsoft Forms, I'll put in a Padlet, and asynchronously, they're always in Blackboard, but all the content is embedded. So that's something that you can do if you'd like. Embedding a PowerPoint file is a little bit more annoying. You have to upload it to OneDrive and then open it from OneDrive, and then there will be an embed code. But that.
So, oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was jumping on what you were saying. I'm the Blackboard fan, but if I embed it, does that mean that it doesn't open up another window or another tab so that it functions actually on that same site? Yes.
It functions right in there.
Okay.
Just like an embedded YouTube video. And actually this code, this iframe code, you can embed any website into your Blackboard. So it can be a really powerful way to draw in content from anywhere in the web into Blackboard.
I didn't know they could actually function in the platform on the Blackboard. Like I knew they could watch like a YouTube video, but the Menti is interactive, and I wasn't sure but it does, which is great.
Yeah, so I use MS Forms, like knowledge checks, and I just embed them right in there. So the students watch my presentation, and then they have a sort of just a formative quiz that's right there, and they answer the questions, hit submit, and then they never leave the Blackboard environment. So that can be really, really useful. So for students on mobile who are able to navigate into the Blackboard environment on their phone, they never have to leave that area. So that can be a really good medium ground for it. And now that I think about it, if you wanted to use this synchronously, and we're still worried about students sort of not wanting to leave Blackboard, you could ask them to go into the folder for today's lecture and find it there. And it would still require Blackboard and Collaborate open at the same time, but they're not opening multiple tabs and stuff. So that's something to experiment with. And that is basically Mentimeter. There's quite a few other things that are here and there around the platform. And my best suggestion for that is to experiment with it. So I've just created something. I'm going to now present it back to you so you can see the impacts of some of the choices that we've made and what it looks like for a student to interact. So I'm going to go up and hit present. So if everyone can just go to menti.com and insert that code, you'll be able to see the presentation. And this is also a great way for you to test your own presentations. Present them, then grab your phone or another browser, and then pretend to be the student. And you can see, oh, I don't like this. This is too small. This is great. This is bad. And you can kind of see how it looks. So there were also, there's a little Q&A thing that I enabled, and people can use that if they'd like, and you can see how that works. And I do believe this one is just comments that you're able to comment. Absolutely, Hakan. There's nothing that throws you off your game more, not you personally, but like the royal you, off your game more than unexpected tech issues. And I find that I just stop in my tracks and I just bumble around until I figure it out. So I like to test things before I go live with students. And testing Mentimeter has been really easy and helpful to make sure that everything works the way I want. And the other thing that I'll show you is you have this ability here to so a few controls. And up here, probably the biggest one is this one, this show vote code. Sometimes it disappears and you're not sure where it went and you don't know how to get it back. I don't know if that's ever happened to you. It's happened to me until I found out about this. So this is just this menu. Click these 3 parallel lines and you get a few more options. So now we haven't been able to see everyone's word cloud, but we do have this image. So if I hide the image, I've just selected S, and now I can see what everyone has written. So the allow participants to submit multiple times, that comes down to if you're looking at your phone, you're looking at the answers. If I didn't have that selected, you would be unable to submit again. Whether you used 1 or 3 of your entries, that would be it. So I like to allow that just so we get a little bit more participation. If people have extra ideas, then we can just more content, more soliciting ideas. And I like that. So we've got a lot of good things here. Pink fish upstream, barbecue, yummy, a fish, supper, fast, organic, Mercury, rats, true but sad. So lots of good stuff. And now we're just going to move on. So this is the title slide. So I have these questions. And I'm going to ask everyone, how many species of salmon are there in total? And maybe here I want to hide the results so that I don't know. So nobody knows what people have answered. But it's kind of difficult because I'm going to have to look here to make sure the number of participants matches what I'm expecting. So I definitely have to be a little bit more aware on the numbers. And then there was a comment, mind blown. Awesome. The little comments add just a little spice to it. And there's sort of small, cute things that you can do. But let's see. We're going to show the results. So we're pretty split here. And I'm just going to hit enter to show the correct answer. The correct answer was 8. 7 species of Pacific salmon, 1 species of Atlantic salmon. Great. So when you hit the correct answer, it's not sort of in your face. It just grays out the incorrect answers and highlights the correct answer. You can click to get a percentage. And this can be done as a replacement for the quiz that's a little bit slower paced and allows you to give students ample time to ask questions. Someone wrote a swear word to test the profanity filter. Awesome. In the comment for the previous slide, I missed it. Did it come? No, I didn't get it. Maybe it. Can you
Sorry,
try?
I was just genuinely curious. I wanted to see what kind of.
Yeah,
operation, you know.
absolutely. I haven't tried, and neither have I asked my students to swear in the Q&A just to see
Bit
what
awkward,
happens.
yeah. So-
But
But I
it's
just wrote the one word, which, you know, in some cases may be more descriptive than offensive. So I don't know, but I was curious if you get a warning or how that comes up.
no. Maybe you could put it in. I didn't even receive that notification.
Huh.
Maya has experience, and she says it works. So we'll take your word for it. So replace it with the symbols. And that's something. I don't know if it's really tricking anybody. But Mentimeter has a lot of these small little add-ons that add in little bits of functionality and engagement stuff that can be really nice. So we move on. Here we have the salmon run. Of note, Pacific salmon do not survive. Atlantic salmon do. And then we have a long answer question. So here students have a little bit more time to add in longer form answers. And as the answers come in, you can sort of click on them and it'll bring them larger and centered. And this can be a great way to, if there are a flood of comments and you want to pick out one, right. So we get some good points about not really setting up their children for success by leaving. Although I don't know if the Atlantic salmon take care of their children. I think they might just like leave them, go bye, and then like swim back. And here, this person knows a lot about salmon, and I'm very happy about that. So we have Pacific salmon species vary in terms of their life cycle. Some spend hardly any time in natal streams. Some spend years. Some mature at 2 years of age. Some mature at 5. Some live for only a couple years. Other lives for 10. So a lot of variety in fish, in the salmon species. And I'm so glad someone else is into this topic. Great. But we have, you can just, by clicking on it, you bring it to the center. And this is just a great way to facilitate discussions that use this. And that can be, we have, sorry to the fish children who lose their parents. So there's different things you can do. And again, I like to allow multiple entries. So, you know, just for example, let's say, you know, this person wanted to add in another comment, but, you know, their finger slipped and they submitted prematurely or at the end. Allowing extra submissions would allow them to finish their thought, even if it's a little jumbled, but you'd be able to piece it together. So I like that. And this is just another way. It's all anonymous. So I find that a lot of students who might not usually be comfortable using the chat or using their microphone, I get them to participate a little bit more with this. This is true. All Pacific salmon are anadromous, which means they start in freshwater Yes, streams, lakes, and rivers migrate to the ocean and then return home to spawn and die. Adult spawners often journey for hundreds of miles to return to the waters that they were born in. Oh, makes my heart. Anyway, so the filter for swear words would not work in the Zoom chat. That would be different, Padma, if that's what you're referring to. But it is mostly for Mentimeter within it. So the comments here, I do believe, as well as questions in the Q&A. Did this, this is great. Did this person write the whole word out?
No, I typed it that way.
I was going to see if the profanity filter cut. You know what? I'm going to practice. We should all practice this on our own, not at a recorded teaching and learning day conference. So we're just going to move on from this. It's an important thing for sure. Might be something we test at home on our own. Oh, Randa, go for it. Children are important. I also hear they're a handful. Don't know. But we're almost done, so all good. So we have the sources, nothing too exciting here. These are not clickable. So if you do have links that you would like to follow in your presentation, I suggest having them open like I did here for these ones. And then we get to our tester. This text is text. So a screen reader will be able to pick up the text you put into Mentimeter, but it will not be able to pick up the PowerPoints. So this is a definite point for building in Mentimeter, and finding a balance is something that you'll have to find out what works for you. So, but that's good to know that Mentimeter built content is fully accessible to screen readers, whereas, oh, Hakan, you just downloaded a screen reader. You could try? Did it work? So there we go. There we go. So this is the presentation, and the last thing I'll show you is when you're done, you can download the results and you can reset the results. Oh, you can also, I forgot to mention, you can click on these interactions to allow different reactions. So a heart, a question, thumbs up, thumbs down. This looks like a devil, but is supposed to be a cat. Someone from Mentimeter says this represents indifference, like cats, which I thought was cute. But you can add these sort of little frills to spice up the presentation. So the last thing I'll show is how to download the results. You'll click download the results. And you'll be able to download PDFs of screenshots of the activities. But the cooler thing that you can do is download a spreadsheet. And I'll just download that and show everyone. And even though this is anonymous, each of the voters has a number and you can see what they entered. So if you're worried about, yeah, so I think it blocked out the inappropriate comment. But if you'd like to grade people on either attendance, not that we grade attendance, but participation, or just grade the quizzes in Mentimeter, you can add in a question that says, what is your name? And then you will associate that to a voter number and then be able to track their answers. You would have to manually record their marks, but this can be a good way to, let's say, more accurately gauge participation. So you could start every Mentimeter session by asking students to put in their name, hiding the results so nobody really knows, although I don't know if that's really necessary. And then you can see what they entered during the entire presentation, and you can assign them a score through that. And that can be a really good way to get a sense of how much they're participating through Mentimeter, which can be good. And then finally, so we're done with this. So we're just going to go back. Yeah, Barbara, absolutely. Either like full name, student ID is probably the better one. Anything that identifies them. And certainly if you've got two students with the same first name and last name, or, you know, something, then using student number. But this is one technique to turn Mentimeter from anonymous into still anonymous at the time. Students don't know who's saying what, but you still know who's saying what. And that can be a really powerful way to keep the anonymity in the classroom, but make sure that you still know who is doing what, even if it was at the end.
My folks really freaked out one day when they realized that in Blackboard Collaborate, I could tell who had answered their poll or not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
They didn't
yeah.
like that once they realized it wasn't anonymous.
Yeah, so that's one reason I like Mentimeter. But of course, with anything anonymous, you get the tension. On the one hand, it encourages some people who might be nervous to participate, but on the other hand, it does give an opening for people to misuse that.
Well,
And
I just know which students have turned on their Blackboard Collaborate and then they've gone shopping.
yes, that's another. So participation, rather than just looking at who's there, you can actively see who's actually participating, who's answering these polls.
Yeah.
And then finally, when you're done with your presentation, you'll want to hit reset results, especially if you're reusing it. And then you'll select either this slide or all slides. So we'll do all slides. So the last thing that I'm going to do, I said that before, I'm going to turn this into audience paste. And I'm going to allow people to answer several times. And I'm just going to share the link in the chat. This way, you will all have an example of what is an audience paste presentation. So we've built a presentation together. We've seen what it looks like from the student side when you're doing it live. And now you can see what the students see if you were to assign it asynchronously. And between all that, and if you wanted, I guess let's just do that as well. Results, here's the link to the results. So you could see what the students see. So we've covered all of the angles of the user interface. So hopefully you have a much better sense on how you might want to use this in your classes if you do. Maya, yeah, you've got a question. Oh, so you can insert Menti questions into PowerPoint. The only PowerPoint plugin that I know of that we're allowed to use with Office 365 is a Mentimeter plugin. It works okay. It is not my favorite.